KindaSound Radio. We're tuning in for change.
Welcome to KindaSound Radio, tuning in for change with me, Stella Grace, on my show, The Gifts Within Adversity. And I have the lovely Chris Thomas here as my guest today, my first show, my first guest. Thank you so much for being here.
How exciting is that?
It really is. Thank you. And we're just delighted to have such the treat of your live music today.
Oh, no worries.
So we're going to get into that as well. Can't wait for that. A little bit about The Gifts Within Adversity. So it really is coming from a place of being quite inspired by supporting people with trauma. And I have quite an eclectic range of guests coming along, each who in differing ways work with others to inspire or support in some way. And of course, Chris, you're very inspirational in lots of your achievements, aren't you? So I'd love to hear a bit more about that. And some of the great stuff that you've done, you know, the 365 Sea Swim Challenge, co-founding that has been really impactful, actually had national reach, hasn't it?
Yeah. The 365 Sea Swim Challenge was something that we started in 2019.
Yeah.
And kind of started it by mistake almost. It was kind of like it became the 365. Initially, it was myself and a good friend of mine, Rob Hunt.
Yeah.
And we just sort of thought, well, actually, Rob invited me to go for a swim in the sea and said yes. So we charged off down to Shoalstone, local beach here in Brixham. Off the rocks, and it carried on from that. And it was an interesting time for me. I'd not been particularly well leading up to that, with some sort of health issues, and I was sort of awaiting a diagnosis. And that was the tricky part of that, because not knowing is always the worst thing. Whether whatever, if you don't feel right. And it turns out I was diagnosed with colitis,
right?
Which was quite a relief, actually, because it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, sure.
And I think from Rob's perspective, he was kind of picking up on that and had a sense of, because Rob's very much a man of the sea. He's a big time surfer, and so he's the man.
Yeah.
So he was probably very aware of that and aware of me needing to do something like that for whatever reasons. He, either subconsciously or whatever, took me down to that place and we jumped in the sea. And we kept on going. So we started in July 2019. We got to kind of around October time. So when the easterly storms are start of turning up, still going in. And we just had the discussion then, if we're going to carry on, we may as well try and create a fundraiser or do something for the local community or whatever. So we had that discussion and we chose the local sea pool, Shoalstone, to raise some money for them, because it's always getting battered by the storms. It's a community pool, so it's funded by people, and a local sort of marine conservation charity. And we chose those two.
Great.
Did it for a year, 365 days, no wetsuits in all weathers.
Yeah.
And when we kind of got to the end, there was a small group of people that were like, oh, we'd like to do that. And then that gave us a dilemma. So, well, what do we do? Do we carry on? Do we, where does it go now? So we did just that. I carried on with them. So I literally finished the 365, carried on, and then followed these other people's journeys. We had another 5 people take it on for another year. And during that year, we had others join. And then the organization became an official CIC, a community interest company. And from that, we've been growing and growing and growing and growing. More swimmers up and down the country. We've had swimmers in Scotland, in New York, in Sweden, obviously in the UK. All doing their little bit for whichever cause or charity or for themselves. Which is, what many people do it for,
Yeah.
So So yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And those brave souls, extra brave souls in Scotland.
Yeah.
But also, I love your quote on the 365 website around why would someone, get in the sea, sometimes in the dark, in the cold, in the winter without a wetsuit. And, I love how you describe that. Actually, there's a lot about that connection, the community feel, doing things you might not ordinarily do, giving you a reason to get up in the morning sometimes.
Yeah.
Some of those benefits are really huge, aren't they?
100%. And it's quite hard to sort of quantify exactly what is creating that benefit. And I think there's a lot of elements to it. I mean, there's a lot of people, because we speak to a lot of people and a lot of people say, oh, it's really good for you. And it's, but to actually sort of pinpoint the actual bit that's good for you, I think it's a real collection of things. Cold water immersion, scientifically proven to be an anti-inflammatory.
Yeah.
For one thing, that's one of the good reasons why I do it. So that's a big plus to it. Minerals from seawater. People talk about that, absorbing all these kind of things. Sunlight, so sort of daylight, you're out, in the environment. So that contact with nature in a wild space.
Yeah.
Wild swimmers generally swim in groups.
Yeah.
So you've got that community thing. So you like-minded people that are all getting that same endorphin buzz at the same time. That's going to have a big influence on how you feel for the rest of the day. And I could probably think of many other things.
Absolutely.
The rain on your face when you're getting changed in the cold and the wet, the wind,
Yeah.
So there are many elements that create this benefit of wild swimming, sea swimming, cold water immersion, and I love that.
Yeah, I love that about it as well, because it really does hit the mental, the emotional, the physical, and the spiritual. And I think I love how you sum that up on the website. It really is all of those elements. It's quite a holistic tool. And I think as well, I've got to confess, I'm much more of a sea dipper than a sea swimmer. And I think that, that's worth mentioning, because some people, I think, find perhaps a barrier to, well, I'm not going out swimming 5K or even 2K. There's still benefits to getting in. And I loved hearing from you that actually, it's because it's so much more than just a physical activity element, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all of the things you've mentioned. And
I mean, swimming as a fitness activity is very different to swimming from a holistic point of view. And I think that is what anyone can do it and anyone can benefit from it. You don't have to be an Olympic swimmer or even a good swimmer. You have to be able to, support yourself in the water.
Of course.
But anyone can pretty much do that. I mean, I know people that are physically, not particularly able-bodied. They've got issues with knees and hips, but they're supported by the water. The salt water will supports them, and they can swim around and they can, really reap the benefits of that immersion. And I think that's a really, because a lot of people, when they talk about the 365, to me, it's like, oh, how long do you have to swim for? How long do you have to be in? What's considered a swim? And I'd say, well, it's down to you. If you've gone in and you felt like you've done enough, you've done enough.
Yeah.
It's not what the next person did or what the first person did. It's what you did, and if you're in for 2 minutes and you benefited,
awesome.
Box ticked.
Yeah, definitely. And for me, I've loved about the cold water therapy in one thing, but the routine. I think there's something really powerful for our health, on a mental level and a spiritual level, for the routine of getting in, doing something every day for self-care. It's, at least in the morning, if you've done that, you've ticked off your list, you've done something for yourself, or at some point in the day. And it's great. And we could spend the whole show talking probably just about the benefits, couldn't we? But I'm also aware I want to get to your fabulous music. So the first song, Chris, obviously we've got the real treat today of you've written all of these songs. And your passion and background within the music industry we're going to touch on in a little bit as well. But do you want to say a little bit about your first song choice, Whenever I Sing Georgia, and what was behind writing it? Okay, so Whenever I Sing Georgia is a tribute song to my mum. Lovely.
Passed away some years ago. we always, I mean, we were very close. She's my stepmother. So we became family when I was around about 8 years old, I think, 7, 8. Anyway, so she brought us up pretty much. And we always used to joke, her favourite artist was Ray Charles.
Okay.
And she'd always say, oh, you'll have to play Whenever I Sing Georgia at my funeral.
Oh.
And I did. And it was probably the worst version you'll ever experience, because emotionally it was just impossible to perform. And I've never sung that song again.
Wow. Ever.
So I kind of got to a point, and it was a good many years after the funeral, and this Whenever I Sing Georgia came into my head, this concept of, whenever I sing Georgia on my mind, Ray Charles, you're on my mind. So
beautiful.
And so that's what the song's about. Yeah.
Oh, that's done in such heartfelt, special meaning. And thank you for sharing that.
Hey, no worries.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
We've got the lovely Django behind the scenes as well, who's going to play that for us now. So thank you, Django.
Riding back in the afternoon when we just finished school, took them bikes down every track until the dust fell. We were trusted to return, although we were often late. I see you out in the distance, waiting at the gate. I hear you call my name again, and I'll be back home then. I never thought I'd be this far from you. Whenever I sing Georgia, whenever I sing Georgia, whenever I sing Georgia, you're on my mind. I see you have all the answers. If I was ever in doubt, you can tell if I was in the wrong, if I can do without. You'd be a shoulder to cry on, you'd be a guiding hand. Whatever trouble I'm into, you try to understand. I hear you call my name again, and I'll be back home then. I never thought I'd be this far from you. Whenever I sing Georgia, whenever I sing Georgia, whenever I sing Georgia, you're on my mind. On that day I sang for you, the congregation cried. Ooh, and I cried hard with them, could not keep it inside. Ooh, I hear you call my name again, and I'll be back home then. I never thought I'd be this far from you. Whenever I sing Georgia, whenever I sing Georgia, whenever I sing Georgia, oh, whenever I sing Georgia, you're on my mind, you're on my mind, you're on my mind, you're on my mind, you're on my mind.
KindaSound Radio, the station for a global community.
Welcome back to KindaSound Radio, tuning in for change with me, Stella Grace, on the gifts within adversity. And I have the very talented Chris Thomas here. That was beautiful to hear one of those songs and with such heartfelt meaning to you.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
it's lovely. So we've been talking about 365, the Sea Swim Challenge, and all the benefits of that, and how successful it's been in inspiring lots of people, which is amazing. But that's not all you're involved in, is it, in terms of community initiatives? So tell us more.
No, well, the 365 Sea Swim Challenge, I kept on swimming. So I'd done 365 days, then did another year, and that sort of took me on a bit of a journey into marine life exploration, because as I'm not what I would consider a swimmer, although I can swim, I was much more interested in, okay, what's going on below us. So that took me to the snorkeling, to free diving, to taking cameras in, and the development of these cameras, scuba diving and more sort of exploration. And the natural progression of that sort of became more, okay, so we've got all this cool stuff we're finding. Let's start sharing that with people and telling them how amazing our local marine life is. And from that was born the Cove Discovery Project.
Wow, okay.
We have a cove here in Brixham, which is two coves, in fact, Fishcombe and Churston Cove, kind of makes up one, I say bigger cove, it isn't that big, but the marine life there is insane. And the diversity of it, and the diversity of the habitat, it just blows your mind. And we really wanted to show people that, and show people how important that particular place is in the grand scheme of things, and that, you know, if we can show people positive images and our experiences and our encounters with the marine life in the cove, it's kind of a broader picture for sort of global marine environmental issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we do presentations to various groups. Wild Planet Trust, UNESCO, we're a partner with UNESCO, and also schools is kind of a big thing for us. So we have a schools initiative where we've gone into primary school and we've done a presentation, we've done field trips, so we actually take the kids to the cove where they're encouraged to discover species, and and through that those field trips, the kids discovered over 100 different species of marine life and woodland life, because we incorporate the woodland, so the shoreline as well. And these are what the kids have discovered, which is just amazing. And they've discovered species that we hadn't even seen. Sea urchins, for example, at Churston Cove. You know, I was just like, they were bringing these sea urchins. I was just, where'd you find that? And it's like, we'd never ever seen them.
Yeah.
And also creative workshops. So we want those young minds to be creative with what they've experienced through their field trips and through our presentations, and what sort of inspires them from what we've talked to them about. So the creative workshop will be art-based and also writing or creative talking if they want to write a poem and deliver that. But we really want the kids to be the vehicle for that. We don't want them to say, right, kids, we're going to make some birdhouses. We want them to say, well, actually, I've written this story, or me and Joe have created this little play, or we've made a model dog, or whatever it is, or whatever it might be. So we want them to guide that. Yeah. So there's that. What we do.
I love that. Really organic, led by, you know, their passion and their interest and their essence. And I think that's lovely to be in a position and to be leading something that's sparking creativity and passion and inspiration.
We felt it was really important that it was child led to a degree, because a lot of their education isn't. It's a lot of like, right, kids, get your books out, we're doing this today. And it's all kind of like that. Yeah. So that's why with the species thing, we wanted them to hear the bird or see the bug or find the crab or whatever it might be, rather than us going around and say, right, come to this rock pool and look at this. Because they're not discovering the cove. We're just showing it to him.
Yeah.
So the whole process was them discovering the cove.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And the other thing I love about what you're doing, and something I've heard you mention before, is that the surface can be a barrier kind of for people, for swimmers and for an educational point of view, which is a lot behind what your initiative's about, isn't it? That breaking down that barrier. Of
yeah,
the surface.
This was a big thing because we didn't really think about that barrier because it isn't a barrier to us.
Yeah.
We did some work with the Wild Planet Trust, who own Painton Zoo, and they do a lot of seagrass research and sort of, really promoting that. And they said their biggest problem was the barrier of the sea, because people can't see it, they're not aware of it. And no matter how many times you tell them there's seagrass there, because there's not that visual connection, people just don't get it. They don't get what it looks like, how important it is, what lives in it, how it grows, how the root systems work, because they can't see it.
Yeah.
You take them to a meadow and show them grass, they're like, oh yeah, that's grass.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same, but it's under the water.
Yeah.
So through our videos and through our photography, it's really broken down those barriers. And we've found that so many of our engagements with people, they'll talk about seagrass. They'll know about seagrass now, and they know why it's important and why we should be more aware of it. But not just seagrass, just the habitat and the creatures that live there. I mean, I'm always amazed by the amount of sea life we've got on our shores. Because prior to doing this, obviously you know that sea life lives in the sea, but your assumption is it's nothing out there. It's just barren. It all lives somewhere else.
Yeah.
But it isn't. It's all there. We see all sorts of remarkable species, from marine mammals to tiny little urchins to basking sharks, dolphins, seals, lobsters, crab, yada yada yada. So it's all going on, and it's fascinating.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, and I think it's really inspiring and confidence building for people, swimmers and from an educational perspective alike, to really think about breaking that barrier. And I think that's something else about getting in regularly and visiting regularly. And I love that inspirational message of it not having to be a barrier. There's other things as well you're involved in as well, isn't there? Like the crab line.
We created a crab line recycling scheme in Brixham, because we're a tourist destination, and I'm not blaming just tourists, but during the holiday season there's a huge amount of recreational crabbing goes on, and that creates a huge amount of waste, because the crabbing lines and the crabbing nets have become a single-use item, and that single-use item is predominantly plastic, and it's mixed-use plastic, so it makes it very, very difficult, if not impossible, for recycling. It needs to be all separated, so it's not mixed, so it's not multi whatever. So we created a scheme in Brixham wherein people can go crabbing and then discard their crabbing nets within the recycling stations that we put around the harbour. Then we can collect them, process them, and then they can be collected and recycled properly, rather than just going into landfill, which is what was happening before. But the other problem we've seen with the recreational crabbing is the environmental impacts of it. So we've seen often, in fact every day, you can go down in the summer and there will be crab lines discarded in the harbour, in the water, floating around. So crab line is 10 to 20 metres long. On various occasions we've seen that wrapped around birds. We've seen deceased birds with the crab line wrapped around them. We've seen seals with the nets on their heads, the rings, the metal rings. So there are significant dangers to marine life and environment. Microplastics in the sea, these things will take forever to break down, and some, certainly the plastic handles, which are solid plastic, they'll be here long after we've gone. So we're just trying to use the crabline recycling scheme also as an educational tool. So on the bins that we put out, we've got signs on there, just guidelines really, and just sort of better ways to go recreational crabbing. So 1 or 2 crabs in the bucket at most, obviously always use seawater, keep the water clean, keep it, and create an environment if you're just going to chuck crabs in there, and don't encourage them to keep the crabs, just catch it, view it, put it back in the sea. But I mean, ultimately for me, I'd rather it didn't happen at all, but
yeah, of course,
it is what it is.
Yeah. And I guess the real challenge and part of what you're doing is, trying to reach the message at a grassroots level, isn't it? Because there's some challenges around that in terms of, like you say, it's the tourist industry.
Yeah.
There's the local businesses that are selling the crab lines, and their livelihoods to consider, if you like. They're not going to necessarily want to not do that anymore, which is really challenging. And yes, there's ethics in that, but we are where we are. So unfortunately, like you say, sort of doing these more grassroots approaches is kind of really beneficial, isn't it?
And there's alternatives to the plastic. There's lots of alternatives, and we're finding sort of year on year there are more companies making alternatives to the plastics. You can get the I mean, we as a 360, we make biodegradable.
That's great.
Sourced from sustainable sort of wood and all this kind of stuff. So we'd kind of like to see more of that going on. So rather than peddling the plastic tat that comes from China, let's think a bit more about, okay, well, people can still go crabbing, but let's do it in a way that's not as damaging.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there is always an alternative, isn't there? It's sometimes awareness, sometimes education, sometimes there's laziness to consider. And I think that's, what's really important and powerful about having these conversations, and also you're going into schools. It starts,
primary school helps. That
young.
And they get really. I went into Stoke Gabriel, was it Campton? Stoke Gabriel Primary School, and the kids got really passionate about it.
I love that.
I think they were going to make some placards and go marching down the streets.
Amazing. We love social activism.
Come on, kids.
Definitely.
So that was cool. I
love that.
Yeah.
It leads us nicely into the second song, and I love this song of yours, Chris. Bound to the Ocean.
Ooh.
I'm guessing you share my passion for the ocean, and I'm guessing your passion behind this song is just that. Do you want to say a bit more about it?
Yeah, well, this is it's an interesting song because it mirrors what I do, but the song wasn't written about me or for me. It was written for a friend of mine.
Okay.
So this song was written before the 365 even existed.
Okay.
Yeah, probably, I don't know, it was probably the summer before. So it was written for a friend of mine who's he's a free diver.
Okay.
And he does a lot of that to a significant level.
Yeah.
So it was his videos and his experience it inspired this song. But I mean, I listen to it now and I relate to every single part of it.
Yeah.
So it's like I've mirrored, his inspiration as kind of, I don't know. I've sort of become this song, which is really odd.
That's
but
amazing.
It wasn't. Yeah.
The synchronicity.
I know.
Just
Isn't it
stunning.
weird?
It was so meant to be.
But and it's like now I listen to the parts in the song and I've been to the places where that inspired that lyric.
Amazing.
And prior to that, it was
your soul knew.
It was his pictures that inspired me to write. So yeah. So yeah, this is it's Bound to the Ocean.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I am bound to the ocean, I am called to the sea. Oh, set me free. Oh, dive in below to the world that I want to show you. This is my garden, forest and my street. I am bound to the ocean, I am called to the sea. Oh, set me free. Keep me clean, oh, keep me bright. Follow the moon in the dark of the night. keep them fishes swimming along with me. I am bound to the ocean, I am called to the sea. Oh, set me free. And as I breathe, oh, my lungs hold in the air, so I become another pair of eyes looking back at the sun. I am bound to the ocean, I am called to the sea. Oh, set me free.
Just stunning. Thank you so much. It's such a beautiful sound, and your voice is just incredible.
Thanks.
Yeah. On that note, you have been in this industry a while, haven't you?
Sometime.
Were you always musical? Have you always been drawn?
Oh, hang on. Just put these back on so I can see. That's better. Yeah, well, I come from a musical family. So my dad was musician, singer, and that was his profession for most of his life. Grandparents were sort of music hall, so they were singing and dancing. So we've got it kind of in the blood, if you like.
Yeah.
Sang at school in the school bands and stuff like that, and have been in bands and performing, for over 30 years.
Amazing.
Yeah, well over 30 years. I've been a full-time musician for 11 years, full-time. Done various theatre tours. Used to be in a Pink Floyd tribute band, and we did tours all over the country.
Yeah.
And that was a massive learning curve, but absolutely fascinating, because you're doing big shows, big theatres. I'm talking like the O2, Indigo up in London, Royal Concert Hall in Glasgow, Corn Exchange in, where was it? Cambridge, where Pink Floyd were actually from.
Amazing.
And that was just like, whoa, that was, So some big stuff.
Yeah.
And lots of small, intimate venues, and which is, I love the variable nature of what I do. It's me and a guitar playing to a handful of people in a little bistro or whatever, or it's a crazy party night somewhere with the band, or it's a wedding, you might be playing a bride down the aisle in some big fancy church, and that I love that variable nature of the work. It's never boring.
No, absolutely. And I love that real organic, those really organic roots you've had, like playing in the bars, playing in the pubs with bands, and then you had some time in London, didn't you, doing bands?
Well, we started back, Dr. Frank back in the day was a local band, and great musicians, and to be fair, pretty much all of those musicians have gone on to be full-time musicians. So, and that's real testament to the quality of them. And we played up in London, and we did that whole circuit, and we wrote a lot of songs, and it really fond memories of what we did. And you always, I always look back on it fondly, and whenever I meet those guys, it's always, it's a big hug, and it's always, you've got a lot of love for them. And for many of the musicians I work with, that sort of rings true with all of them, because you create those bonds through the music and through those experiences. It's a really lovely family to be part of. For anyone that's involved in music will sort of tell you that you create really strong bonds with people.
Yeah, lovely. And I think that is part of the warmth that is felt by people, music itself is so powerful and so special, isn't it, in terms of touching people.
Definitely.
Touching people's lives, the amazing memories we can be drawn back to with a song, for the good and the bad. It has that power, doesn't it, to actually get into ourselves and really shift our state.
It's that soundtrack, isn't it, to everyone's life, and everyone's got their songs, and they're like, you hear a song and you know exactly where you were and what you were doing, and we've all got them.
Absolutely.
and it's a fascinating thread that runs through everyone, you know. And I think there's some people that are really into music and some people that are really not into music, but whether they are or they aren't, it's there in their lives. You know, you can't escape it, you know, because it's there, you know, and it runs through everyone. And I mean, we're all interconnected in some way musically, which is phenomenal.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes it's more a connection and a facet, a part of us than we sometimes think. I mean, I know when I was getting ready to do some of these shows, the early shows, I was thinking about, wow, actually, I mean, I know my music taste is really eclectic, but it's, you know, I was thinking back to when I was growing up in the 80s, and my mum's CD and record collection was huge, you know, and, you know, lots of bands like Level 42 and UB40 and The Pretenders, you know, some really great bands, some really great stuff. And, you know, I went back to listen to some of that and I was just like, wow, actually, you know, it was quite a good era.
It's history, isn't it? I love it. I love it all.
Yeah,
you know, I
history.
love that, the songs that inspired me, because I grew up in the 70s, and my dad being a musician, he'd be playing me the songs that he was into. So you know, if we was going on a road trip, it'll be his songs on the cassette, you know, and it'll be like, I don't know, the Beatles and the Eagles and the Bee Gees and you know, Simon and Garfunkel and all this kind of stuff. So a lot of harmony based singer-songwriters, bands, and you know, that's because I love vocal harmony, and you know, that's a big part of, you know, what inspires me, you know, and I love all that old music.
Yeah, amazing.
It's proper lush.
Yeah, inspirational. Like you say, you know, those musicians and their message as well as their sound. And I think that's the other really special thing about music generally and performing, and you know your amazing voice. You're very fortunate in all your talents, and putting that out has the ability to make people feel good and to feel touched in some way, and that's through your talents. But there's also then a double impact of music having a meaning as well. Yeah. So again, it's multifaceted. You
really do connect with people, and I'm probably not. I mean, I'm aware of that connection, but because I'm performing, I'm playing a song and singing a song, and probably the audience member is probably feeling more connected. Do you know what I mean? At certain times. And that's, you know, that's great because it's like a subconscious connection, you know. I'm in the zone just playing away and they're like being absorbed by it. And it's really nice. When someone asks for a song and you play it for them and you can see it's like, whoa, you know, it really means something to them.
That is powerful.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah.
And playing at weddings, I think that's such a special and sacred thing to do. And again, if we look at that in current times, that's just beautiful and special in itself. Like you say, playing a bride down the aisle on a special day, that's amazing. And also for me, if we look at that in terms of like a bigger picture of the collective as well, how music will have brought people together, you know, almost like a tribal feel or a community feel. Again, that unity through coming together at whatever stage, you know, where it was just, you know, quite raw at times, but that real just unity.
Yeah, it's great. And weddings is a perfect example for that, because often, you know, you'll be, for example, I'll be doing a first dance for a couple and you'll play the first verse and maybe the chorus, and then you'll encourage all their friends to join them on the dance floor. You know, and then all of a sudden it's not just about them, it's about everyone else that's there for them, you know. And you'll be playing in the evening at a wedding, for example, and everyone's like going crazy, singing along, you know, and they're all in that song together, and it's just brought them together, you know what I mean? And they're not even thinking about that, but in the moment. And the next day they'll be like, oh, that was mental, wasn't it, last night? And then someone's holding their head like they wish they hadn't drunk so much. But, you know, and it's an incredible thing, and it's so powerful, you know. And there's lots of famous songwriters that have said how music is true magic, because it's in the ether. It's not like a trick there's no trick to it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
It's not like a card trick or a hidden ball or any of that. There's no illusion.
No.
You know, it's truly magic. What it can create.
It has its own essence. It has its own, you know, force, doesn't it?
It does.
It's an energy.
And I mean, anything that can, and it you know, it's that emotion that it creates
absolutely.
in people. You know, brings people to tears. Literally, you know, I've seen it happen.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
It's. I mean, that is magical.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so inspirational in itself, isn't it? And again, you think about, we have another tool to access here in terms of consciously shifting state. You know, how often do we put on a cheery song to G
lift us up? Yeah.
And, you know, so to be able to do it really organically, I think is something else. But also thinking about it as another tool.
Yeah.
Because it has that impact on our bodies to lift us so easily. So I love that. Really powerful. And your next live song is called The Flow. Would you tell us a bit more about The Flow?
Yeah, well, this is the newest one I've written. Still pretty old. But yeah, this is the newest song. And this is kind of about how we're not necessarily in control.
Okay.
It's about how adversity is unpredictable, and that it's not always easy.
No.
And we can't necessarily control it all. And so this is it's a song called The Flow, and that's generally what it's about. It's because I was seeing adversity in others, and it was beyond their control. They couldn't change the course of that situation.
Yeah.
And that's what this is about.
Really, really powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries. Stand against the tide. You may wash away the sand, but you'll never dry your eyes. Paddle against the flow, where the pull of the current will take you where you don't want to go. Ooh, pushing against the flow. Blow against the wind, but a north wind blows, it'll chill you from within. Running up that hill, oh, the mountain make the air so thin it'll make you ill. Pushing against the flow. Always been this way. Life will pick you up, gonna take you another way. When you're high, you're down. We can pick you up the next time you're around. Cannot stand for falling down. One step forward and two steps around. Ooh, ooh, pushing against the flow.
Thank you, Chris. That was just stunning. Great. And such a perfect meaning for actually why I've invited you here.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, as I said at the beginning, the gifts within adversity is really about, you know, knowing and recognizing that there's always going to be adversity.
Yeah.
But actually it's our tools and our inspiration and how we come back from that and keep growing from it. So you've encapsulated some great tools to inspire and support people that you're living and breathing and doing and sharing. and there's the message in your meaning and your music as well.
Definitely.
So I love that. It's really perfect, and it's an absolute treasure to have you here today on KindaSound Radio. So yeah, it's a really, really exciting time for, like we were saying, these inspirational things. What's next for you, and with the projects, with the music, what's next?
Well, we're just moving forward with the sort of the ideas that we've talked about, sort of with the 365 and the Cove Discovery Project, conservation and in my environmentally motivated sort of things. It's going to be more presentations. It's going to be more sharing our experiences with people, engaging with our community. It's going to be sort of more speaking to young people. We want to go into more primary schools and more secondary schools as well, and speak to the young minds and trying to influence them positively with what we've experienced and what we've learned through our journey. Because I think sharing what we've gained and what we've experienced, there's no point in having that experience if we're not going to impart that on other people and say, look, this is awesome, we want you to know about it. And that's kind of where we are at now with the 365, and still building our community of swimmers, because we sort of understand how important that community is, whether it's local or whether it's more global. They can, certainly with the global reach, we've got so many tools now where people can communicate things like this, for example. Obviously Instagram and all these social media things. Social media gets a lot of flack, but it's a great tool for community and supporting each other and bringing sort of people together through a common theme. And we've found that has been the best way to grow the 365, through those channels. So we'll be doing more of that.
Amazing.
And who knows what else in regards to that. Musically, as a full-time musician, there'll be plenty more gigging going on. Now I can get in the studio because it was a right mess prior to this. I might actually start writing some more songs.
Amazing. So we've prompted an opening here for you today.
So that's a good idea.
That's great. That's really exciting. Yeah, I absolutely love that, and I think it's really great for people to hear some of the messages today. Where can people find you if they want to learn more or sign up even to 365? Where can people find you?
So the website is 365seaswimchallenge.com. On a Google search, 365seaswimchallenge.com, Sea Swim Challenge, and that will fire up a load of links for us. Instagram, 365 Sea Swim. And also on Facebook is the same. And all those links are on our website, and there's a load of information on the website about what we do. And it's because the swimming is a small part. That's kind of where it started, but from where it is now, it's a very broader brush that we now paint with. So it's not just about swimming. That's just one part of what we do. So it's worth having a look and investigating where we're at. And there's always volunteer opportunities, certainly with the Crabline Recycling Scheme. And we're doing things like beach cleans. We work with local organisations, till the coast is clear. And we do beach cleans with them, and we do remote beach cleans, and we take kayaks out, and we do all kinds of activities of that nature where people can get involved and just experience what we experience and sort of understand how cool it is. Engagement with nature, wild spaces, and just seeing a different view of maybe their hometown, of people that live in Brixham and they've never been on the water and looked up at Cheriston Cove or Severn Quarries from the sea. That's things like that.
Amazing. And I think that's the thing. I think that's really empowering as well, isn't it? We can do as little as a 2-minute beach clean, can't we? Anywhere on our coastline. It's those little things that yeah, it might not change the world in a day, but actually we're still contributing. And I think sometimes
it's changing attitudes, isn't it?
Yeah.
See some litter on the beach, pick it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether it's a cup or a straw, it's one less thing that's going to be in there.
Yeah.
You know, if everyone's doing that,
definitely.
It makes it, and if everyone did a little, it would be a huge amount.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, if everyone does nothing, then there's no change.
Yeah.
So that's something we do encourage a lot. You know, if just do a little.
Yeah.
You know, because everyone can do a little, or most people.
Yeah.
So.
But great to know also people can do more. You have volunteer opportunities available. That's great. You know, people might be listening and thinking, actually, that does sound like some really good stuff. I have got a bit of time and brilliant, you know, and then those who don't, we're talking about the smaller stuff. I am going to sign up for the 365. Yeah.
Are you?
I'm going to
do it. You've said it now.
I've said it now. I've said it on radio.
Only on live radio.
So that's it. I've committed.
Yeah.
To see how I've done that. I've made sure I'm in now. I've set myself that challenge. Yeah. After doing an October challenge where I got in every day, and some days it was a chore, definitely. But I really missed it. I think I got in the next day after. I got in on November the 1st after the October challenge, surfing anyway. So that that was fine. But then after that, day 2 or 3 after that, I was clucking a bit. I was missing it actually.
And I think having that challenge aspect of it, you're going in. Because you're committed to it. Because we used to say to us in the first and second year, or whatever it was, when Rob and I were doing it, and they said, "Oh, how do you do it every day?" And I'm like, we're doing it every day. It's not. Yeah. The not doing it isn't even a question.
No, exactly.
You know, it's not. It's logistically, how are you going to get in?
Yeah.
Not how are you going to get in?
Yeah.
You're going in. And that's the end of it.
Yeah.
You know, and there were times we were going in at like 10 to midnight because for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember one situation. I was we went up to London, so I swam on the morning we left. The next morning we got up and I got a swim in what's the lake called up in London? Can't remember. Anyway, some stinky lake in London in the middle of January. It's like 6 degrees, goose poop everywhere. It's rank.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I'll get that one in because at least that's a wild swim. But we were sea swimming. Got the train back. Got into Paynton at like, I don't know, 12:50 in the night.
Right.
Rob met me on Paynton Beach and we just charged in at Paynton Beach at like 10 to midnight. And that was one scenario of many where we,
you just got to make it happen.
got it done. Yeah.
I love the discipline element of it though, because I think it's all of these things that are really transferable to our resilience levels, how we go about our day-to-day life. You can really transfer some of those skills, can't you? And I really found that. I think the discipline element was really good for me, as well as all the benefits that we discussed in the beginning. But and I think as well it's worth mentioning, excuse me, that the 365 has 2 options, doesn't it? So it's that you can do the everyday for 365 days.
Yeah,
which is amazing, and hats off to all of that crew.
Yeah.
But there's also a 52-week option, isn't there?
The 52. So it's 2 swims a week for 52 weeks. So and they have to be on separate days. So you can't do 2 swims on Monday because it was sunny and warm. You know,
get out for 5 minutes.
Get back in. Nah.
No.
So 2 separate swims on 2 separate days for 52 weeks. And that's still pretty tough.
It's still a challenge throughout the winter, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's tough with commitment to other things,
It is. Yeah.
Family, work, friends, whatever. So it is a commitment. And I'm not going to say it's easy.
No, it's
the easiest part of it is going in the sea.
Yeah, okay.
Getting to the sea can be quite tricky at times.
Yeah. Juggling it.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
But that's the challenge.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what makes it a challenge. And then, of course, you've got that fundraising element. Should you wish to, you can choose your own charity, can't you? Which
absolutely,
is also really lovely.
And that's something that we really wanted people to understand, is that the 365 is a vehicle for them to use as a fundraising vehicle, or just as a reason for them to do it for themselves, because they want to reap the benefits of wild swimming, or because some people are in a bad place and they want to be in a good place, and that is a vehicle that helps them do that.
Yeah.
If they want to be part of a swimming community, there might be a group of people, for example, and they do it all together for each other. So it's people, we want them to sort of use it for their purpose.
Yeah.
It's not about us. It's about what they can, use it for.
Yeah. I absolutely love that. It's great. And it's also raising awareness as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
As well as the fundraising element, which is great. So your fourth and final song, Chris, Django's going to play this for us in a sec. It's called Wake Up Smiling.
It is.
Sounds very cheery.
It's a positive one, isn't it?
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more.
So again, this is kind of about how the media can often report sort of negativity. You see a lot of... You rarely see good news stories on the news. So that was kind of the inspiration of Wake Up Smiling. It was more about be more in the moment and don't be too drawn into all the sort of the bad things that are going on.
Yeah.
Because there's also a lot of good stuff going on.
Amazing, and very fitting with the KindaSound ethos.
Yeah.
Spreading, positive media influence. So that's great. And people can, just before we play it, listen again tomorrow to this show on Saturday, and it will be made available as a podcast from Tuesday.
Very cool.
On Apple and Spotify, and of course the KindaSound.org website with a /podcast on the end for that. So wonderful. Thank you, Django, and thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Happy I avoided the news. I don't want them reporters to be giving me the blues. Bed like stories I don't need to hear, avoiding all the people that we should fear. Oh, wake up smiling at you. Wake up smiling, you just sleep the whole day through. When you open up your eyes, wake up smiling too. Roll out of bed like you just fell from a star. You only realize just how lucky you are. Lucky to be there with that roof on your head, nice fresh linen on your nice warm bed. Oh, wake up smiling at you. Wake up smiling, you just sleep the whole day through. When you open up your eyes, wake up smiling too. Oh, oh. I sometimes do not know which way to go. Hey, hey. Oh, does it really matter anyway? What's the point in them asking me to choose when the losers win and all the winners lose? Oh, wake up smiling at you. Wake up smiling, you just sleep the whole day through. When you open up your eyes, wake up smiling too.
KindaSound Radio. We're tuning in to change.
Welcome back to KindaSound Radio with me, Stella Grace, and my lovely guest, Chris Thomas today. It's been filled with gems of wisdom and inspiration, I feel. Thank you, Chris.
It's been great. I've had a great time. Many thanks for inviting me on for your first show. How cool is that?
Really cool, and you're very welcome, and it's great that, you know, we've had the treat of your live music and songs, and yeah, it's been really, really good. Super inspired as always to get in the water and, you know, keep doing those things, and just it's been really great to hear about, you know, your music and your background as well, and the meaning of your songs. The Wake Up Smiling just there again, like I said, really fits into the KindaSound ethos. And, you know, on that note, KindaSound is really, you know, doing some great stuff. It's such an amazing honour to be, you know, here broadcasting, because they're spreading positivity in the media, like we said, and that really fits in, you know, with something that's close to your heart as well. So it's an absolute honour. I know that the other shows are also absolutely filled with gems, and it's really worth to give them a listen. So I'm on every fortnight with the Gifts Within Adversity with guests, a different guest each time, and that is Fridays at 11. Then the show is replayed Saturdays at 12 the following day. Saturdays the following day, the same time, 11 till 12. And then we are able to access them as podcasts, so that's really cool. On Tuesdays, they're available from kindasound.org/podcast.
Very cool.
So I will look forward to the replay as well. Hearing the other shows. And thank you again, Chris.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank
All the
you
best.
again. And you.
Cheers, Stella.
Cheers.